Now, across Texas, the issue is...
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Alarm bells are ringing in the heads of many Democrats following President Biden's lackluster performance in the CNN presidential debate. The big question now is, with months into the election, will it all be forgotten in November?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
The highly anticipated first presidential debate between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump turned into the Democratic Party's worst nightmare. While Trump dodged answering questions and made inaccurate statements, what many will remember is the raspy voice and slow reaction by Biden.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
This was the first time in history a president and former president faced off on the debate stage. The rules of muting mics did not become an issue, with Biden and Trump rarely cutting each other off. Biden appeared to be sharper with his responses on the topic of abortion, where Trump claimed Democrats are for late-term abortions.
Some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
A topic top of mind for Texas voters, the problems at the border. It's now become a national priority for voters in other states.
Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
The stakes were higher for Biden as polling in swing states shows that he has some ground to make up. I talked to SMU political scientist Matthew Wilson about the debate.
His performance played into all of the Republican talking points about his cognitive decline, about his weakness as a president. And I think those were some voter concerns that people were looking to have assuaged in the debate. And he just fed the fires.
Will people remember more of how Biden looked so old and in some people's description weak? Or will this just be it's June and there's still a long way to go to the election?
Things do tend to fade over time, but I think this is going to linger because it played into a conversation that we've been having for a long time. I mean, this weak performance didn't come out of nowhere. It follows on the heels of a whole series for years of incidents and concerns and events where Biden's cognitive state was up for question. So in that sense, it's likely to have an enduring effect. The bigger question right now is what happens with the calls within the Democratic Party to replace Joe Biden on the ticket.
Is Democrats' reaction of some people asking, is Joe Biden going to be on the ticket come convention? Is that just more emotional, or is there a real chance that there are the power players in the Democratic Party really considering taking Joe Biden off the ballot? Is that realistic?
Well, nobody can take Joe Biden off the ballot. Here's the thing that people have to remember. Joe Biden has secured enough pledged delegates to get the Democratic nomination. So removing Joe Biden from the ticket requires Joe Biden's consent. He would have to agree to step aside. Now, pressure could be brought to bear on him to do that, right? People could say, look, I'm not going to contribute money. I'm not going to campaign for you. I'm going to sit this one out on the sidelines. He could come to the conclusion that he can't win with the very, very, tepid level of support he might have within the Democratic Party. But he still has to make that call. He can't be forced aside. He has to decide to step aside.
Did Trump risk anything in that debate? I mean, I know he dodged multiple questions. He didn't answer questions. He gave some inaccurate statements, but That's just Trump being Trump, right?
He's done all those things in the past, and they're kind of baked in people's reactions to Donald Trump. I mean, he's a familiar figure at this point. People know what they get, and they either love it or they hate it, most people. And I don't think last night was anything unusual. I mean, I think it's kind of par for the Trump course, for good or for ill. So I don't think he did anything himself that was going to materially move the needle one way or the other.
There's a lot of words to describe that interview. I'm just going to keep it safe and say landslide. Rudy Koski, what is your one word?
You know, Stephen, the first word that comes to mind for me is mulligan, but I'm going to go with bingo.
All right, Greg, what about you?
My word is train wreck.
That's a good way to describe it. The Fox Texas Trio will have a lot more to talk about that train wreck of a debate right after this break. Fox Texas Trio is back. Greg, we're in June, heading into July. Will that debate really make a difference in November?
Look, Stephen, there was no camouflage on that debate stage. Joe Biden's physical and mental frailty was buck naked and alarmingly apparent for all to see. I say alarming because in this country, they force commercial airline pilots to retire at age 65. No exceptions. And yet here we are being once again asked to empower someone 16 years beyond that age who is demonstrably diminished to control the nuclear football and steer the entire free world through treacherous times. Their worst fears confirmed. Democrats in the immediate aftermath, they're justifiably apoplectic. Will what unfolded in Atlanta shift a bunch of votes? I think if you're an undecided independent voter in a swing state, what transpired last night will matter because, as my dad used to say, Father Time is undefeated.
Rudy, do you agree?
Got to go with that butt-naked truth from Greg Grugan. Wow, that was great. You know, I think a lot of people who watched are just simply disappointed that their debate bingo cards totally didn't just match up, you know, which is why my word was bingo. We played at home, and my wife won it. 849, this is her bingo card right here. It was the one that was made by the Washington Examiner. You know, I was upset with that. My sister and I, we used the one from the Fox News Channel. We were close, but my sister was cheating on that, so we'll get rid of that. But it forced us to listen to the political banner, right? And while we had fun listening and playing the bingo, I don't think anything that was said will actually change minds in the voting booth, which is why my other word that I had and I considered was mulligan. That comes into play. The late argument over who has the better golf game may be the only thing that sticks from this debate, which is why the public, Trump, and certainly Biden probably want a do-over, a mulligan. The question now is, will they tee it up again, have a rematch before November? Biden camp says, yeah, they're up for another one. We'll see. Stephen?
We'll have to see. Greg, is this really about Biden's age? I mean, to be completely honest, Trump is not much younger than Biden. Is this about his age or is this about Biden?
Look, Stephen, let's be clear. Victory in this debate was not secured by Donald Trump, but rather surrendered by Joe Biden. While clearly more cognizant and vigorous, Trump repeatedly failed fact checks and came off as mean-spirited, arrogant, and unapologetically evasive. And given the opportunity to display a little nuance and project unifying leadership, the former president instead bragged, blustered, and threatened. And that absolutely bizarre exchange over who would beat who in golf. I mean, are you kidding me? Is this really what America gets to choose from?
It's what we got right now. Rudy, you'll have the last question. Rudy, Greg teed it up. Trump said a lot of inaccurate statements, but does that just not matter anymore?
Hey, look, I think Trump and Biden both got a lot of red check marks Thursday night. They no doubt embellished their records, twisted the facts, and just like they've done on the campaign events that they've attended. Long term, I think the most damaging misstatement will be used in the campaign going on is the one that Biden said with that no American military personnel died during his term. 16 have. That was a big one.
All right, really quick, guys, yes or no question. Will Joe Biden be on the ticket in November? Greg, you first.
Yeah.
Rudy?
Yeah, he will. But an open convention sure would be fun.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for now. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going on social media.
Next week, the issue is hanging up on cell phone use in schools. We'll see you then. And don't forget, let us know what you think the issue is.